Hello, my name is XONEVANT. Today is Friday, January the 9th, and today I wanted to talk about this article that I read referring to Xbox One and PlayStation 4 effectively being online-only consoles. Let's get right into it on today's Daily Dose. So at the beginning of this generation of console gaming, right? Xbox One, PlayStation 4, they both had their ideas as to where this generation of console gaming was heading, right? PlayStation 4 was more about the same old, right? Keeping it disc-based, etc., etc. And Xbox One obviously had a different plan, and that was to be kind of do the always online. They had the DRM, they had locked content, and that sort of thing. And even though I do feel like the future of gaming will head in that direction, for now, gamers didn't want it. Gamers did not like it whatsoever, including myself. Was not happy with it. Did not plan on getting an Xbox One. But then obviously they rolled back all of their policies and went back to the disc-based system, same old, same old. And I'm sure that somewhere down the line, right, both of these companies will probably head in the digital space. But for now, we're playing games the way that we have always played them. Yet we're seeing some of the same old tricks that we saw back at the end of last generation, and that is, day one patches to fix games that are basically broken on day one. And that's kind of where I wanted to take this discussion today. Now, this article that I read kind of touched on this same thing, and I had never really thought about it this way, right? Because when Microsoft rolled out their plan, you were going to have to be connected to the internet at all times to be able to play your games. That was the way it worked, right? And nobody, well, I'm not going to say nobody, because some people did like that idea, but I think most gamers did not like that idea. But when you look at what's happening right now with games, and I'll use Assassin's Creed Unity as an example, right? I guess it was at first a 6 gig patch that came out to fix that game. And then it eventually ended up being, for some people, a 46 gig patch, because it had to basically rewrite the whole game, right? It had to update the whole game. That's crazy. And effectively what ended up happening is that you had to be online to get that patch, which means if you weren't online and you bought that game, it was a buggy mess, and there was no way to fix it until you got online. So what this article is talking about is effectively both consoles, because when you think about all the current gen titles that you're playing, or all the new games that came out in the last year, all of them, at least the ones that I can think of, right, have required you to have an update. As soon as you put it in your console, gotta have an update, which means you are still buying a broken game. And Assassin's Creed Unity, like I said, is the biggest example of that, because it was broken pretty bad. Now, I haven't played Assassin's Creed Unity. My plan was to buy an Xbox One because I wanted to play Assassin's Creed Unity, and they had the deal. But now I'm glad I didn't get it, because I would have bought a buggy game. And I don't even know if it's fixed now at all. But my point is that we're still effectively, and I agree with this article writer 100%, we are effectively still having to be online always to be able to play these games, because you got to get the update to be able to play the game without it being in a buggy state. Now, he goes on to talk about why this happens. Basically, when a publisher wants to publish a game, obviously it's got to go to a company, it's got to get wrote to the disc, it's got to get packaged, it's got to get processed, it's got to get put in a truck, it's got to get dropped off to a retailer 7 days in advance because it's street dated. So they have to start this process a month to a month and a half out to be able to get it to, the retail stores in time. So what they're doing is they're shipping the game broken, and then they're taking that month to month and a half while it's being packaged and shipped and all that kind of stuff to fix it. And then when it comes to your house, they're crossing their fingers that it's going to get fixed with a patch when you put it in your console. And like I said, with some of the games that came out last year, it didn't happen. And with games like Battlefield 4, right, it was a buggy mess for a long time. And so we are still relying, even though we're not in the era of being always online, technically, when you look at it, we're still always online. And I find that I find that heartbreaking, man, because we're spending our coin, and I've talked about this before on the channel, we're spending our coin to buy something that's broken. Where else on this planet would you buy anything that was broken, right? On day one. And you know it's broke. Like, we're gamers, man. We know that the chances when we spend our $60 on any game, we know that the chances that that game is running, I'm not saying 100%, because no game is perfect. You guys, we've talked about that before. I used to think that way, and you guys are like, no, it can't be perfect. And I get you. But geez, man, you got to be able to play it. You got to be able to play Assassin's Creed Unity. You running around and your face would just fall off. Like, you'd be running around with eyeballs. I saw some footage of that. That's crazy, man. You know what I mean? Cut scenes with people with no faces. Like, that's pretty bad. And we are willingly spending our $60 to not only buy games that are broken, knowing that they're broken, but effectively all of us who were against being always online or having to be connected to the internet to experience our game, we are effectively still falling into that placement, if that makes sense. And so it's kind of ironic when you look at it, because I was part of that 70 to 80% poll that they did on Amazon. Remember when they were pre-ordering the consoles? I was a part of that 70 to 80% that was like, no, son, I ain't trying to get put up in this mess, right? And effectively right now, when I want to play a game, I am part of that demographic that has to, put it in my console and get the update first. And I've said this time and time again too, that if I did not have a YouTube channel, I would never buy a game on day one unless it was from specific publishers and developers such as like Naughty Dog, right? Because I trust them, and very few others. I would never buy a game on day one. It's too much of a risk. You're rolling the dice every single time that you do it, right? You are basically throwing money in the garbage and hoping that you get some kind of return out of it, right? Because anybody who bought Assassin's Creed Unity on day one, there's no way you had a good experience with that game. And if you did, you were very lucky, because from what I hear, just about everybody who played that game did not have a good time, right? It's too buggy. So anybody who did play it and had a a heart-wrenching time with it because of all the bugs, man, I feel for you. But at the same time, you knew it going in, right? We got to wake up as gamers, man, and we got to know going into these $60 purchases that it may not work when we get home, because it's contingent on a patch and it's contingent on you having internet, right? And those who don't have internet, who have issues with internet, or maybe they were having some weird snowstorm at their house and the internet was out, they still couldn't experience that game. Even though it was a campaign-based game, right? They still couldn't experience that game because the disc they had was a buggy mess. And until they could get on the internet, it stayed a buggy mess. So anyway, you guys are going to have to let me know what you think about this, because I know a lot of you guys were in that demographic who did not want to go forward with this type of online only type thing, right? But according to this article, and I totally agree with them, we're still there. We are effectively doing it right now. And does this mean that later on when they finally roll it out, we're just going to be used to it and maybe we won't have the same backlash as we did this time? I don't know. But I know right now we're definitely getting in the routine of it. And last generation, we got in the routine of it too there at the end. Just about all the games needed patches and updates there too. So, I don't like where this is heading. I don't like being, paying for games that I can't, play out the box and know that they're I'm not going to say 100%, but that they're polished enough for me to get through them without too many bugs. But I do know that if I didn't buy them on day one and I waited for those problems to get solved, I could get the game for cheaper. It wouldn't cost me $60, right? I might can get it for 30 or 40, and it wouldn't be the buggy mess. It would be fixed, and I'd get it for cheaper. Same experience, less gamble, right? And more quality. So I just don't understand why more gamers aren't waiting to play these games, because that's when you're really getting the value for your dollar. I know a place where they sell these pills. and they are a lot more efficient than chloroform, I gotta say. Alright guys, that's all the time I got today. I'll see you guys right back here tomorrow.